Thank you to those in the previous Canadiens video who commented Porina Sat, or the Aces, or whatever it was. Something along those lines. You can see it on the screen who did it right. But today we're making another video about the Habs, not really in any particular fashion because of something that happened in the news. There's no big story that I'm talking about here. Sure, I guess we'll talk about Caufield a little bit again, because as he has been in the previous overtime games, yeah, he's still looking pretty good out there on the ice. But in general, I'm making this video because I just kind of wanted to go over my own personal thoughts, I guess. Maybe ask a few questions for those of you who watch this YouTube channel who are indeed Canadiens fans, because the way the Montreal Canadiens have been playing as of late, I think there is indeed some room for concern in terms of where exactly offense is coming from, and just the overall direction of this team and where you foresee them going in the next few weeks. So, the Montreal Canadiens are coming off of a 2-game losing streak where they honestly performed pretty poorly, if I do say so myself. Their recent game saw them lose in a pretty meh kind of fashion, 5-1 against the Senators yesterday, and then 5-2 against the Leafs today. We know Cole Caufield did all his magic in the previous few games. Yes, we know the 2 overtime games where Caufield came alive, but these 2 previous losses were kind of just, you know, they weren't really losses that you take a look at and you say, darn, the Canadiens had themselves a chance in this one. The game yesterday against Toronto was really bad at the very beginning because Toronto just kind of started piling things on. Caden Primo, unfortunately, wasn't really all too great. Of course, it had to be Alex freaking Galchenyuk who scores himself the opening goal. And then against the Ottawa Senators, you had yourselves what was just an overall Sens team that played really well. It's kind of weird, but the Senators are 7-2-1 in their last 10. They're no longer one of the worst teams in the league in terms of the overall play. I mean, they've been running up the power rankings on the NHL's website, I believe. So they've actually been doing pretty well. And so for the Canadiens, in a position where, yes, Cole Caufield scored yesterday against the Toronto Maple Leafs. It was Corey Perry going out there making a very nice play, taking it away from Sandin, sends it out in front for the cross crease. And even though we're in a spot where Caufield has given us stuff to cheer about, as we said in that video a few weeks ago, Cole Caufield is not the answer to the Canadiens and their woes. This team still has other things to work on, and sure, getting 2 overtime games from Cole Caufield, that's amazing. But this team still had other issues surrounding its other players that they needed to work out on. And yes, absolutely, losing out on Weber, losing out Gallagher, losing out Deneau for a period, yeah, these factors will definitely contribute in a negative way to the overall Canadiens and their build. But my question to you right now is a pretty simple one. Going into the playoffs, how confident are you? That's the thing. That's the biggest thing I want you to tell me in the comments section below. How confident are you heading into the playoffs? Because we knew the way the Canadiens structured their offseason, the way they acquired guys at the deadline, the way they made all these moves, they're going for it this year. And so with that in mind, with the idea that this was the plan, do you think this team is going to go out there and do some damage in the playoffs? Does this team have what it takes to go 4 playoff rounds and win themselves a Stanley Cup? Because that's clearly what Marc Bergevin set out for this team in the offseason. I get that there are going to be fans out there who go out and say, yeah, whatever happens, I'm cheering for the team. Whenever they win, I'm going to be happy. Whenever they lose, I'm going to be sad. I want this team to win every game. And for sure, that's definitely a perspective I can understand. But that's not what I'm asking here, not what you personally would like to happen. What do you personally see happening? Do you really think the Canadiens are going to win the Cup this year? Do you really think the Canadiens are going to have what it takes to, I don't know, tango with the Toronto Maple Leafs and win 4 out of 7 in them in the first round? If it's not Toronto, then hey, Edmonton. We've seen how the Canadiens have shut down Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl this season, but if the going gets tough, if they face each other off in the first round, do you see Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl just kind of succumbing to the same defensive pressure that Canadiens hockey had enforced onto them in the past? Without Carey Price, without Gallagher, without these guys, is that still the case? And so, when you think about the way the Canadiens have kind of played into the playoffs, how they had this big lead at the start of the year, but they couldn't win in overtime. Okay, they fixed the overtime problem, but the team just has other woes infecting them in other parts of their lineup. Is this a team that you can foreseeably see going far in the playoffs this season? And if the answer is no, what's the response afterwards? Is it a Bergevin firing? Is it letting him off the hook? Is it saying, okay, we were fine because Romanov made the team, Suzuki took a big step up, Caufield is here now, so all is good in Habs land? Are you that easy on Marc Bergevin if they end up not making it far in the playoffs? Where would you go to make improvements? Is it as easy as letting Philippe Deneau walk and signing somebody else? Is that even something you would entertain? And the entire reason I'm making this video, now particularly, is because we have ourselves what is a few more games against Toronto and against Edmonton for the Montreal Canadiens. Firstly, Connor McDavid is on his quest to score 100 points. If he doesn't do it against Vancouver, you know this guy's going to go out there against Montreal with a vengeance, wanting to go out there and score himself 100. When the Canadiens play Toronto and when the Canadiens play Edmonton, these are going to be pretty much the playoff rosters, give or take a few other scratches coming into the lineup and whatnot. So, the way the Canadiens perform against these teams, these are going to be the performances that we see and we say, okay, this is kind of how we can scout out our Canadiens playoff run. And I know it's not mathematically guaranteed the Canadiens are in the playoffs. It's still possible for Vancouver to come out there and storm their way in, but it's highly unlikely, so that's kind of why I'm just saying it right here. If the Canadiens play either Edmonton or Toronto, how confident are you that they will be able to get it done, put up a fight, and actually find a way to win? Because Bergevin made it clear. The way they made their offseason acquisitions and the trade deadline moves, they want to win. And don't get me wrong, it's not like it's cup or bust in my opinion. If they win a playoff series and maybe force themselves into a Game 7 loss in Round 2, I still see that as a pretty good win for Montreal. It's just the same question arises when you get to that point, what happens next? Because I think most Canadiens fans can understand that just from the way this team has been playing lately, this is not a cup-winning team. This team's probably not going to go out there and win 4 out of 7 4 times. Especially against teams that are going to be as hungry as Toronto is to finally break out of that first-round bubble, and Edmonton. Because you see Connor McDavid in the bubble. Whenever the games get tough, Connor McDavid steps up. Leon Draisaitl steps up. For some reason, Edmonton becomes that powerhouse. We saw that in the bubble last year. I mean, they lost, I get that, but we still saw Connor McDavid and Nugent Hopkins, of all people, produce like crazy against the Blackhawks in the play-in series. And so even though we have the positive stories, the Corey Perry setting up Caufields and the Lekkonens getting the late goals, we still have a team that, at its core, still requires offense from, mostly, Toffoli and Suzuki. And when it's not Toffoli and Suzuki scoring, hey, this team's only getting 1 or 2 goals a game. Is that enough against Toronto in the playoffs? Is that enough against Edmonton in the playoffs? Is Jake Allen going to be enough to hold the fort? I love this guy, I think he's a great goaltender, but is it possible to rely on him and strictly him for a playoff run? Because Caden Primo, I know he had a bad game yesterday, I don't know if he's ready. It's why there's this big cloud of doubt around my head surrounding the Montreal Canadiens. Even though I'm a big fan of this team, I love what they've built, I love their young guys, you know that. I've been making videos about the young guys and the prospects and the team in general for quite a while now. It's so cool taking a look at these stories. But, as a guy who likes the team still, can I rationally sit there and say I think the team has a chance in the postseason? Maybe at the beginning of the year when they only played Vancouver and Toffoli was getting a hat-trick a game, maybe. But I don't know about now. They've kind of come back down to earth. So the main question still kind of stands. I want you to tell me in the comments, just how do you feel? How confident are you in this team to go out there in the playoffs and actually do what Marc Bergevin wanted this team to do? Win a round, win 2 rounds, win 4 out of 7 games against Edmonton or Toronto. Do you think it's possible? And if it's not, where do you go in the offseason? Because some of the same issues we had at the Canadiens last year where they're just mediocre, we're still kind of seeing those today. So, talk to me in the comments what you think. If you made it to the end of this video, I'm kind of trying to think, what do we say in the comments for this one? Oh boy, this one's interesting. Let's just say Pingu. Pingu, yes, Pingu, because I'm thinking about the Canadiens and last year and the fact that they eliminated Pittsburgh in the playoffs, and obviously Pingu is a Penguin, so that's kind of the connection I'm making there. Talk to me in the comments about the Canadiens and your overall thoughts. Also comment down Pingu for a chance to be featured in the next Canadiens video. I hope you enjoyed this video, Rumours99. Also, I hope I'm not too negative about this. I get that I might be manifesting some negative energy here for the Canadiens and their fan base, especially the ones that watch these videos, but those are just some concerns I have, man. Like, this team, to me, hasn't really shown off that they're good enough and sustainable enough to win a cup, especially in this timeline where it's been so obvious that that's kind of what Bergevin wanted to do. So, yeah, sorry for the negative video, I guess, but I hope you enjoyed this one either way. So that's Rumours99. Comment down all the stuff that we talked about, and bye.